Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of Club Grubbery with yours truly, Joel Jammal, for the first time ever on Grubbery, and Graham Hood and John Larter. Gentlemen, how you going?
All the better for seeing you, Jolly.
It's literally, it's been months since I've seen you in person, let alone, face to face on a Zoom call. How have you guys been? What's happening? I mean, guys, literally, this is, for those of you tuning in, we have not really talked face to face in that long. Like, I've missed you guys. How are the misses? I feel like I've got to catch up on everything.
Johnny, you go.
Well, it has been a while, hasn't it, Joel? You've been busy. We've been busy. It's mad times. It seems like we've just had the federal election, and we're sort of settling down from that. Waiting for Albo to touch back down in Australia, and
yeah.
Crazy times.
Yeah, 100%. I've been watching your club grubberies, and I think people have really been enjoying them. I mean, you got a consistent following there. People have been enjoying something different. And I've been enjoying something different. You know me, I'm the politics guy, but it's nice to take a break every now and then and tune into something else.
Yeah, I reckon we've been enjoying it as much as everyone else has. We've had a lot of fun. John and I have cacked ourselves laughing at each other and laughing at ourselves, and it's been good. But yeah, it's been a hectic year, Joel. That's for sure. There's been a lot going on and a lot of stuff to talk about and. But boy, what a journey. It's just been incredible.
Well, you've been traveling around the country. I mean, what stood out to you? I mean, you went all the way to WA, you went bit of South Australia, bit of Queensland, bit of Victoria.
Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia and WA.
Right.
We did just under 20,000 kilometres over 3 months. It was meant to be hook up the caravan, let's race over and go and see the kids and grandkids in Perth. And we did that. We went to run the border of WA, but when we got there were no cops.
Yeah.
This was before they opened the border. It seemed there was a shift change. So we handed in our grapes and our half a rotten lettuce to the border control guy and kept driving. And then as we bragged about our good fortune of getting into WA, people realised that we were there. And then we had non-stop speaking engagements. Everywhere we went, it was just full on.
Yeah.
Every single day there was something to do, just talking to people at town hall meetings, even on the way back through Johnny's hometown of Tumut. We had the great pleasure. We did a few meetings together on stage. I love being on stage with John. And we had a good time at the what was the name of that theatre, John?
The Singleton or something? Montreal.
The Montreal. Yeah, it was just amazing. And, been preaching in churches as well as preaching in the beer garden at the Kelly Hotel at Singleton, would you believe, to about 300 people. So, Look, it's been amazing. But the thing that stands out, Joel, is the beautiful spirit that lives in regional Australia. Not only regional Australia, but we didn't go right into the cities. We skirted around the edges. But there are so many people who are all of the same opinion. We're all in this massive arc together, and their spirit and their love for each other and their compassion for their fellow man is just amazing.
Right. And what you were doing a few of these sort of gatherings, these town hall sort of gatherings. John, what were you sort of talking about? Like, what was the big concern that people sort of, were asking you guys about?
Oh, I think it was all the sort of the usual sort of stuff that we've been speaking about, Joel. They were interested to find out about our particular journeys and how we met, and but Hoodie, was certainly striving to sort of develop that sense of community and that sense of restoring men back into the breach. And giving them an opportunity to come along and find themselves, I suppose, and that was just so important for a lot of them, and it was just fantastic to see those guys at the during the course of the the speaking engagement there, Hoodie would ask them to come up, and virtually everyone would come up and would sort of naturally sort of accept that that they could do things a bit differently. And I think it was really engaging, and we found the new heroes.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of leaders out there in waiting, and they certainly look to you Graham and you John, being some of the last statesmen of old, to actually to guide them forward. I mean, there's a lot of people that are lacking a moral compass, and so when they do see men like yourself saying this is the way, fellas, they're like, all right, this feels normal. They feel in alignment. And I like Jordan Peterson says, that has a chain reaction for communities. So, I mean, what you guys have been doing, I mean, I've said it already, it's invaluable. I mean, that is what grassroots is. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's as John said, the last I don't know, probably the last half of the tour, I was calling out to men, even at the rallies. It was like an appeal. I redefine hero because in Australia we tend to focus on sporting heroes, and we've lost the notion that the real heroes are those men who go to work to do a menial job every day for 30 or 40 years just to make sure their family is supported. I mean, they're the real heroes. And yeah, the guys who run out of a burning building with a kid over their shoulder, or guys like John who are there extricating broken bodies out of wrecked cars, and they're the real heroes. They're the unsung heroes, and we tend to glorify men for their sporting prowess and not for their. Let's face it, a lot of our sporting heroes haven't lived the most exemplary lives as men. But I take men on a journey where they get to see that we have been set up for hundreds of years to be taken out of the family unit, because when men are taken out of the family unit, the family suffers, and then the community suffers, and then the nation suffers. And when men realise that this has been a ploy by the New World Order for centuries to get control by getting men out of the breach, they realise that they can actually come back to that place, that it wasn't their fault. And the manhood I'm talking about is creating a situation where real men stand in the breach, and that creates an environment for women and children to flourish without fear. And I think that benefits everybody. It benefits the whole world if we can do that. That's what changes the wretched climate that we're all living in.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I just think that there's a massive market for it, and a lot of people they've been going out about this the wrong way. They've been, and I point to Jordan Peterson again when he was on Q&A, and this climate activist said, all these things are happening. What the government should save me. The government should fix all my problems. It's like, no. Like, sure, a lot of these problems come from the government, but you yourself have it within your power to do a certain amount of things. Demanding the government fix your problems for you isn't the way. Maybe it's not the way forward. Maybe you got to clean your own bedroom before you go out and criticize the world.
You nailed it.
Yeah, so you've been reflecting recently, both of you, on the last 12 months. What have you sort of, I mean, I've seen some of the videos where you guys have been talking about it. What were some of the big takeaways you guys got from the protest culture?
Well, but they were a good opportunity to galvanise people, and I think at a time when there was a lot of vulnerability, and there was a lot of people hurting, and there was a lot of people looking for something to physically do to try and make this whole situation improve. It was an opportunity for people to go together and talk with like-minded people who are suffering the same problems, and just feel free and just feel as though they were in a community, and that they had friends, and that they weren't being ostracised, even if it was just for a few hours. It had the added benefit of putting some political pressure on those that are responsible for all this evil madness. But I suppose there comes a time, Joel, when that has to end. I think it's got a use by date, and you have to diversify your tactical sort of arrangements and get a bit not smarter, but sort of just vary it up a bit. And I think those rallies just at the end just got a bit stale.
Yeah, no, I think I tend to agree with that. I reckon that, rallies, they serve a lot of different purposes, building morale. It's almost like a military parade as well before an election, to be like, hey, this is how many people agree with us on this topic. You better fix this. But I also feel that, at the times when it's illegal to protest, then that's when you're meant to protest. So it was sort of a reminder that was when it truly was memorable. And I was reflecting on the 24th of July protest recently, because it was the 1 year anniversary of that. And I was just thinking, why is it people remember that protest? I understand why I remember it. I mean, I happened to be at the center of it in Sydney, but why do other people remember that one? And I think it was because it was seen as the most risky, the most illegal, the most sort of, watch out, the police will arrest you. And, there were hundreds of arrests made, over 10,000 reports, snitches to the Crime Stoppers, people dobbing in their own family, their own workplace mates. 10,000 reports. I had at least 1,000. It was ridiculous. And I think that was a protest where it was like, yeah, that was totally legitimate, and it made its point. But I do agree that over time, it gets a bit tiresome, and people want results, and that might not necessarily be the right answer. I mean, as we got closer to the election, I was getting increasingly frustrated with a protest every week, because I was like, guys, you should be manning polling booths. Early voting is open. Like our candidates, our freedom candidates that we selected, they actually need our help on the polling booths. They don't need you to go out and protest in the street. They need you to change new minds. But I don't know, that's my take on it, Graham.
Yeah, look, for me, Joel, the standout for me was just how organic it was, and how it galvanised a group of people who don't normally protest. I mean, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I went to a protest back in the 1989 pilots dispute at I think it was in Melbourne somewhere. Bob Hawke was opening a CES job centre, and I went there and protested. And I remember I was standing face to face with him, screaming at him, and he looked at me really terrified. I can understand that. I was pretty angry, but that was such a foreign thing for me to do, and to ever imagine that I would speak at any rally at all, whether it be 20 people or whatever, was the furthest thing from my mind. But to go to these rallies where hundreds of thousands of people and see the everyday mums and dads who were there, that's what really stood out for me. The other thing was, what really stood out as well was how the message was being hijacked in the mainstream, how what these beautiful Australians were doing was being painted a different colour and portrayed as something, ultra left or right wing. It was just madness. And John and I we worked out early that if you want to wake up people who spend their life watching Big Brother and The Block, then you have to find a way to get the message into the mainstream, to have people sitting in their living room saying, oh, well, these guys seem reasonable. What they're asking for isn't anything too crazy.
Yeah.
And, and so John and I developed with a couple of others, a real strategy of how we could get a crisp, sharp message through. And we worked with you on that, how we could get a crisp, sharp message through. And you're the one who told me about, just stick to no more than 10 points and get them out there. And we defined those points, and those points would have resonated with 95% of the people in the rally populations. And so it worked. When Chris Uhlmann interviewed us at the rally in Canberra, up behind the barricade, we kept it short and sharp, and he reported it, and it went to air. And it was great. It worked because we weren't giving we weren't giving the editors in the edit suite fodder to be able to chop and change and manipulate. There was no room for them to do that. And then the whole episode where we went into Parliament House, into Craig Kelly's office. Look, John and I were waiting on a number of politicians that could have come out and said, okay, I've got permission for you to come in. The first one to come out and do that was Craig. And so we went in with Craig. We went in there with a list of demands. And we knew that this is so well set up inside that wretched building on top of the hill that nothing we were going to take in there was going to make any difference. But what we desperately knew was that we were going to have an opportunity in a closed environment to talk to mainstream media and get a message across. Because when we try and do it at the rallies, somebody will run in front of you with a Nazi swastika and they'll report on that. Somebody will yell out, the American election was a fraud, and they'll report on that. Somebody will wave a QAnon banner and they'll report on that. I've been at so many mainstream press conferences after a rally where all the microphones are set up, and here's an opportunity to say what needed to be said for the 95%. And then somebody would run in and you could see them folding up the camera tripods, and the journalists would walk away, and I'm just standing there thinking, well, that was a complete waste of time. Going into Parliament House with John and Tony Nikolic and the others was an opportunity to do that. And Channel 7 were there, and they filmed us for 7 minutes, and I believe they put it all to air, John. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a very different view than... I totally agree with everything you just said. I have a very different view of what other people see Canberra as. I thought it was an overwhelming success. In terms of what you set out to do, it was actually 4 points. It wasn't 10 points. It was, free travel across the borders, no jabs for the kids, no jab mandates, no lockdowns, and I think there was one other thing. And what resulted after that visit from Parliament, I never fully completed the list, but remember, Graham, that we did that episode where we went through all of the different articles of success that had happened. There was all of these good news stories coming out, like the South Australia Police Union started chiming on with their government saying we want to drop the mandates. There was a university that dropped their mandates. The WA border ended up opening up so that people could actually travel. There was a whole bunch of things with the health workers in New South Wales mandates dropping. I mean, it was absolutely wild how quickly the COVID narrative sort of passed away. And it's nowhere near done, guys. Don't get me wrong. But there was some significant successes that came out of that. And and we started to break into the mainstream. Like 2GB host Ben Fordham was like, you can't ignore that many people. I was like, wow, we really didn't get much mainstream coverage. And you mentioned Chris Ullman. I think a lot of people, when they went to Canberra, they would have felt upset when they left. First off, because they used LRAD on us. I can personally say I was sick for at least a week or two after that protest. I was not okay. And there were a lot of people, some of which who have it documented, they went to doctors after that. They were not okay after that. And, police were asked about the use of weapons against protesters by Senator Malcolm Roberts, one of our freedom senators. And I am completely disgusted that they would do something like that. The people weren't going to storm the Capitol. This isn't America. This is Australia. We're quite mild like that. And I think a lot of people would have felt a bit upset because maybe they were told by some of the more radical people in the community that, we're going to overturn the government in, some 1978 sort of American Revolution style. That's not how politics is done, guys. You going into Parliament was lobbying. That's what you were doing. And you guys were warning the politicians, if you don't actually go this way, all those people outside, they're not going to vote for you in the election. And that's exactly what happened. In every state, there was a solid 15 to 20% of the population that voted against jab mandates and lockdowns and all of that crap. All of it. And we just marginally missed out in getting a senator in every state. We ended up... So now we've got 6 senators up, freedom senators, which is awesome. But ultimately it wasn't enough because the Liberal Party aren't conservative anymore. So they ended up not making up the numbers. And long story short, we don't have the balance of power because of that. But we turned up and we did it in a short 12-month period. And, you know, if you were to define a movement by that success, you'd say that's amazing. That's apt. I mean, that's huge. And so I don't know. I do have a different view of Canberra than other people do because I think they wanted to overturn the government, and that was never going to happen. I mean, going to the Governor General and saying, you know, I want you to remove the government, I thought that was a ridiculous proposition. And I asked experts at the time, like Professor David Flint and Dr. Stephen Shavura and Augusto Zimmerman, and they were like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I going back to the LRAD, it was interesting because at the end of the last rally we did there, John, for us was the budget night rally. Was it the last one we did?
Yeah.
One of the when it was over and I was sitting on the barricade waiting for a lift back to where we were staying, someone was going to get the car to take us out, and I had a really good chat with one of the inspectors from the Federal Police who we'd come to know. John and I both spoke with that inspector several times, and we had a good rapport with that person. And they said that they were annoyed, that police were annoyed that we're at the rally that the LRAD was used. It affected them as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's just that sort of thing's not on. Somebody gave the order and then some clown actually had the audacity to follow it. And that needs to be investigated. But yeah, look, Canberra was just something that seemed to unfold day by day, almost like an accident. It was so organic. Nobody could keep track of it. I mean, I thought I was going down in the first stages just to interview some truckies for a little radio show I was doing for TNT Radio. And I said I was going to go down to do that because I couldn't find truckies who were willing to speak up. And I thought, well, if there's a truck convoy going to Canberra, that's where I'll go. And when I said I was going, it was like a lot of people said it was like I announced that there's going to be this massive rally in Canberra. And that's all I said was I'm going to Canberra.
Yeah.
And it became organic. And then I was there for a couple of days and I had to come home for surgery that was pretty urgent. And as soon as I got home, Michelle and I drove home. The call came out, you've got to come back. It's going nuts down here. You really need to come back. And so I didn't even have the surgery. 9 hours after arriving home, I was driving back down to Canberra to join John and go back to see what was going on and see what we could do and what role we should play. And then and we seemed to walk into a hornet's nest, John and I. We became embroiled in a whole bunch of different agendas and different egos that were trying to set things up, and it was like walking into a meat mincer for a while. But you know, we pulled everything out that we could. We did everything we could to make it work in our own organic way. Did we make mistakes? We all did. We all made mistakes, but boy, they were amazing opportunities for us to learn. And it will remain the biggest rally, I think, in Canberra's history. And for that, all the people who attended, and boy, every time I asked at a meeting on the tour who was at Canberra, all these hands go up. Even in Western Australia, they drove from WA. So I think it was a defining moment in Australian history, and it's just it's a pity that it was caught up in a bit of turmoil there. But that will never be what defined Canberra. It'll be those people that you're seeing on screen now. Those great Australians who decided to go to their seat of government. What an amazing thing.
John?
Yeah, no, I agree with all that, Joel. It was an amazing time to be there. There was a lot of people there. There was
Yeah.
Yeah. How they ever said there was 10,000 people there is beyond belief, isn't it?
Oh yeah, just a few hundred buffheads, John. Just a few hundred buffheads. 3,500 buffheads. Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just I am reflecting on the photos too. Wow. Yeah. A lot of people.
Yeah, there were a lot of people in the trees as well that you don't see in the photos. It was just well, the police in the ACT said there were 1.4 million extra vehicles entered Canberra the Friday before that big one. So
there it is.
Yeah. Telstra outage.
Yeah, that was on the day, guys, the Telstra outage that they had. I remember Pauline, let the record show that Pauline Hanson did a post on this and made the point, why is it that in these two zones out of all of Canberra, there was an outage? You know, it doesn't make any sense. You know, we've seen these sort of outages happen in Victorian protests, in New South Wales protests. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I've talked to people that actually are in the industry, and they say, no, these systems are made for peak hour. Like, they are made for millions of people to come into the city and to work. How on earth is it that they're being overloaded? It makes no sense because it spreads the load. It's just absolute. It's absolute madness. I don't understand how they. Yeah. Anyway, Canberra. That was Canberra. Why? I can't believe that was this year. That was in February. What else has happened? We had the South Australia election. The first One Nation Upper House member, Sarah Game, she ended up getting up. She's a lovely lady, and yeah, of course we had our federal election, and that was an interesting one, wasn't it? I've actually got some good news for you guys. In America, despite all of the voter fraud allegations and all of the discussions we've had about that, and I know what your audience is like. We share the same audience. They're all like, Dominion and all that, stuff. And, they love talking about it as if it's Australia as well. So in America, despite all of the crap that they went through in the 2020 election, dragging it on for 3 months, the events of January 6th, Mike Pence not doing his job, despite all of that, they just recently had some what they call primaries, where they select who their candidates are for the Republicans, the Democrats, for the state of Arizona. And there were all these Trump candidates, MAGA people, America First people, and there were all of these candidates that were there for this Republican establishment, like the Scott Morrison types. And they ended up getting absolutely smashed. The MAGA guys came through. People, what they were doing with their ballots, and this is what I did with my ballot, they would get their ballot in the mail, they would fill it out, and rather than mail it in, they said, you bastards, I don't trust you. I'm going to take it in on election day and hand it in because there's a better chain of custody with that. There's signatures and everything. That's how we have it in Australia, by the way, and that's how I did my vote. And I'm just so encouraged by that because Arizona was one of the states that held up the presidential election count. And to see the Patriots, despite the crap they went through, it's because our voter fraud's nothing compared to theirs. Despite what they went through, they showed up and they absolutely demolished the Democrats in turnout. And it's just proof that, look, they can try and rig it as much as they want, but at the end of the day, the truth will come out. And people are angry. The cost of living, they're getting crushed. And so I can't wait to see what happens in the actual election in November. This was like a trial run. And see the people come out. I mean, I think the Republican candidate got something like over 200,000 more votes than the Democrat candidate in their respective primaries, which are separate. But yeah, so I mean, I thought I'd put that out for you guys.
Well, that's good news. Let's look for some of that in Australia.
Yeah, well, when the whole fraud narrative was coming out about Australian elections, I sort of had it in the back of my mind where I was a bit fearful that, guys, if you stop voting, they win. We can't stop voting. Like it's such a short 15-minute process to vote, and we only do it once every 3 or 4 years. Let's say there's a 20% chance that the vote doesn't count. Would you still take the chance? Probably. To save your democracy, and so yeah. Look, I'm actually going to be doing more talks with the Americans because Turning Point Australia is, of course, an American brand, and I'm curious to see how they tend the flock, especially with that topic. But yeah. So where do you guys see things going forward in terms of the fight for us?
Well, I haven't seen much improvement. Look, Health, New South Wales Health announced last night that they're introducing a mandatory third vaccine into the health policy in New South Wales. We haven't seen really any letting up of any health policies in Australia. I just can't fathom it. Look, the data doesn't support what they're doing. There's been numerous experts now that are on record as saying that this is just completely farcical. I think a few more doctors and specialists have spoken up. I think there's a mood in the community that is rightly suspicious that they've been sold a dud on this. But the bureaucrats that are controlling us, and the courts too. The courts haven't been terribly kind to us, despite the fact that there is overwhelming evidence that supports our position on this. I think Jared Rennick and Senator Antic and people like Pauline Hanson have been leading the charge on all this, but I don't know. Where are we? Look, I'm still at a loss. Some people have gone back to work. Healthcare's in crisis in Australia. But we're still not allowing nurses, doctors, paramedics, physios who are unjabbed to go back to work and take some of that pressure off the system.
No, it's absolute madness.
Yeah, look, for me, Joel, I think, look, I really believe that people have got to realise that this is a battle between good and evil, and ultimately good will win out. We don't know what form that good will win out, but it will win out. And for me, I've seen so much disparity amongst people who are fighting for freedom. The thing we've got to come to terms with is that we're all going to have different opinions, and people must be allowed to have different opinions and share them. But we get if you share a different opinion to anybody else's, you get such a reaction from some people that you wonder how much they know about freedom, because freedom actually allows people to have a different point of view and have that be okay. Unless we get some discipline about us with those sorts of arrangements, we're always going to be a rabble.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to be the change that we want to see. And so, look, I've learned in the last 12 months that every institution on the planet has completely lost any value. There is not one single institution on the planet, and I'm talking about religion, charity, bureaucracies, you name it, mainstream media, medical, whatever. There's not one single institution that anybody has any faith in anymore. They have all broken the circle of trust.
Oh, there is one, Hoodie.
Which one's that?
Club Grubbery.
Club Grubbery. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. But I've got to say that if there are two professions that need to step up, if the two professions I'm about to mention would actually grow some testosterone-producing genitalia and stand up and put themselves on the line like John and I and so many others have, this would all have been over 2 years ago. I'm talking mainstream media and I'm talking medicine, doctors. There are some doctors who are now speaking out. Some spoke out earlier. But I'm telling the Australian people, my opinion only, that if the doctors stand up en masse and the mainstream media tell their editors to go and jump, this all ends. It does. Because when the doctors speak up, the absolute farce, the absolute con that this last 2 years has been will be seen in the spotlight, and that needs to be reported. And there will be no bloodshed. There will be no need for rubber bullets. There will be no need for anything else. The police will look at that and they will say, I'm not going out to arrest people, Australian people who've been defrauded like this. Any decent police officer would not do that. So my appeal is to mainstream media and to the medical profession, grow some nuts, find some courage and backbone, forget about your bank balance, forget about your holiday house, and come forward and actually do something.
Mm.
You do that, it's all over. And until then, we're just going to flummox around. And until then, Joel, I claimed the other night, Galatians 1:10 out of the Bible. I speak to please God, not man, because if I speak to please man, how can I ever please God? I could not give a rat's bum about what other people think about me anymore. I care about what God thinks about me. And if the God I love is true to his word, and I believe absolutely 1,000% that he is, then loving him and trusting him is good for the whole world, not just good for me. So I'm going to follow him. And if he wants me to go to a rally, I'll go. If he says don't go to a rally, I won't go. And that's my mantra from this point in time onwards. I've had to redefine myself 100% over what's been going on in the last year. I've seen the best and worst of humanity. And I've seen the darkest of the worst. And no, I haven't actually, because when you think about what went on in Romania and places like that, where we've still got a way to go to get there, but we're not far from it. But I've seen the best in humanity. I've seen the absolute best. And there is no way anybody on this panel or in any other sphere is going to please everybody on the planet. My aim is to please him, the boss.
Oh, man.
And if that works and he's happy with that, then I'm okay with it too. And everybody else, do what you will. Don't believe what everybody tells you. Do what you will.
I'm into that. You can't. I want to nip this in the bud. So from what you told me, you copped a bit of flack because of your view on chemtrails. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, look. Can I just say?
No,
all right.
it's not
all
only
right.
that. It's
No,
not only that. Yeah.
There's a few things, but like the idea, like you said, the idea that people are going to agree with you on everything is ridiculous. I mean, if you agree that you shouldn't put something in your body without consent, that's one. If you agree that no lockdowns, that's two. If you agree kids shouldn't be jabbed, that's three. If you agree that there shouldn't be any kind of passport or financial restrictions on you, that's four. Okay. Can we agree on that? Beautiful. And free speech. No censorship online. Beautiful. Everyone on this panel agrees with that.
Yep.
Now, those are fundamentals. Now, if I say to you, Graham, a few questions now, I can guarantee you that we're not going to agree on something. Like, Graham, for example, do you agree that there should be abortions at all?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what about guns?
Do you want me to qualify that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think if a mother with 3 children is being told by a doctor that if she has the child that she's pregnant with now, she will die, and that will mean that her 3 children will be motherless. Of course, there are medical reasons why that has to happen.
Yeah.
And that's as far as I'll go on the topic.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And look, and there's a lot of people who would agree or disagree with that. That'd be a bit more hardline. What about the issue of guns? Do you think Australia should have sort of America-style gun laws?
No, I don't.
Well, there you go. See, right there is a topic where I probably disagree with Graham, and we're still friends. It's like, that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like the idea that we're going to be, we're going to segment the population as and divide and conquer them all the way down to the individual is ridiculous. I mean, this is what they try to do to us for everything. They try to do it on race. They try to do it on Aboriginality, religion, jab status. Enough. One flag under God. We're countrymen that have each other's backs. That's how the Anzacs did it, and that's how we're going to do it going forward. All right. None of this divisive crap where they just want to pull us apart. I mean, they are pulling apart the fabric of society. Worship who you want, do what you want, but for the love of God, people, there's no way in hell Graham's going to agree with everything I believe, let alone you believe. So, give the man a break, okay? Far out.
Can I say something that I probably should have said the first program that John and I talked about chemtrails? Right. It's really simple. In 32 years in command of a Qantas aircraft, in 53 years of flying totally, I did a couple of years of crop dusting where I was spraying chemicals on grapes and wheat and things like that at low level. But in the 32 years that I was in command of a jet aircraft in Qantas, and I flew every 737 in the fleet, at no stage ever did I find a tank on board the aircraft that would contain any chemical for spraying. And I know that aeroplane inside out and back to front. I'm telling the people right now, with my hand on my heart, as God is my witness, I have never seen a chemical tank for the purpose of spraying on a commercial jet aircraft. I have never flicked a switch in the cockpit that turns on a chemtrail. Never. I've never been in an aeroplane where such a switch exists. And that's all I'm trying to say to people.
Yeah, yeah, and I defer to your better judgment, Graham. Me personally, if someone asks me on a live stream, Joel, what do you think about chemtrails? I'll be honest, guys, I haven't looked into it. I'm a young guy. I'm 25. I haven't looked into every topic. Ask me about elections. I'll explain to you the boring intricacies of preferencing. I haven't looked into the chemtrails thing. There's a lot of things I haven't looked into. One, there's no time, and two, we've been dealing with like lockdowns and kids getting jabbed. I mean, my focus it's not high on the priority list right now. And so I'll take your word for it, Graham. You're the best person I've asked on the topic. So, for now,
Joel, the thing is that the several hours I would spend each day exploring this topic that people want me to do.
Yeah.
Is time that I would normally spend with groups or people who are on the edge of suicide.
Yeah.
Now, I know where my time is better spent. And people who don't believe that, they need to spend a day in the house with Michelle and I, or on the road with Michelle and I, and see how much time we put into that effort alone. I will not be distracted from that just to prove somebody's theory one way or another. Whether the earth is flat or round, it's irrelevant. Whether that chemtrail thing is happening, I don't care personally. What's going on in America, I don't care. I don't care whether the election was rigged over there or not. I'm more concerned about the welfare aspects. I've said 1,000 times, if I was in a battle, I'd be a chaplain. And that's where my heart is.
Absolutely. And, it sort of reminds me of that verse from Paul, the one about, show me your faith. Show me your faith by your works. You could say you have faith, but, the fruit of faith is works. I mean, where are the people you're helping? Where is the love you're spreading? Are you helping your family? Are you taking care of your immediate environment around you? Or are you trying to help some foreign land and, rather than your immediate family, and get yourself together? No, absolutely. Johnny Larter, where do you see things going from here?
It's a difficult question, Joel. I'm always optimistic because there's a lot of good people in the fight. And I think whilst ever we've got these good people and we've got good community behind us, I think we're in a far better position than those that are instilling this mess upon us. So people are obviously they've got faith, and they've got there's a lot of people that aren't religious, that they are still in the battle because they believe it's the right thing. There's a lot of reasons why people find hope in what we're trying to achieve. But I think whilst ever there's a threat of children being harmed, whilst ever there's a threat of people receiving injuries as a result of vaccines that are causing massive problems with our society in terms of health, and people like us can do a basic risk benefit analysis of what's there. I mean, it's a very simple proposition to me. 99 point whatever it is % of the population survive COVID. The overwhelming majority of people who are dying as a result of COVID are dying probably of old age, of heart attacks, of strokes, of pneumonia, of flu, diabetes, car accidents, whatever the case may be.
Dementia.
Yeah, because they're old and it's time to die. That's the overwhelming people that are being affected by COVID. They're dying with COVID, as the Prime Minister pointed out, not of COVID.
Yeah.
And the reality from my point of view, and I think, probably the three of us, is that we've come to the conclusion that the likelihood of us dying of COVID with our current status is highly unlikely. In fact, completely unlikely. So why inject ourselves with something that we don't know anything about and run a greater risk of injuring ourselves in the short, medium, or long term with a substance that's untested? And they can say it's tested, but look, we don't know what the ramifications of this will be in the medium to long term. I mean, we've seen enough damage in the short term to say that it's bad. And if you use the analogy of the 737 Max jet, they grounded that after 2 accidents and 300 people dying. Now, by any calculation, thousands, hundreds of thousands have probably died as a result of these silly vaccines. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, have been injured around the world from these silly vaccines. And no one's blinking an eyelid. They just carry on.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. John, the way they've treated you, I cannot say how that makes me feel, because it'd get the stream taken off. How old are you, John?
49.
And how long were you a paramedic? 40 years?
The
The maths doesn't add up.
25.
Paramedic at 9. It's
It was an early calling.
it sounds like operating on animals. I'm going to kill them. They're bastards, aren't they? Far out. John, look, I'm going to be around a lot longer than you guys, just by virtue of maths, and I am not going to let them get away with what they've done to you both. That's the best way I can put it. I'm a vindictive bastard sometimes, but and
I've got to tell you, Joel. Excuse me for interrupting, but John was at work cleaning toilets at 4:30 this morning, and he didn't get home till 4:30 tonight for $22 an hour. Now, for anyone out there who thinks that he's a grifter or whatever, go to a fast food outlet and apply for a job as a toilet cleaner. Because a lot of the people who are critical, they probably don't even go to work. I don't know. But, I mean, that's what you need to understand. And not only is John there, but his wife is there too. She's making coffee. $22 an hour. A registered nurse, 30 years experience with a degree in clinical teaching. Welcome to Australia.
I'm going to kill him. I swear to God. I don't mean that. I'm just going to massage them very strongly.
Yeah, look, the ramifications, Joel, are terrible for the young people. I mean, because I take one of my daughters. She's interested in doing nursing and following the footsteps of her mother and being a paediatric nurse, but she can't even get into uni to do the nursing degree at the moment. So she's been in limbo for 2 years because she wouldn't be able to do the placement. So all these kids are out there, they're wanting to be physios, they're wanting to be chiropractors, they're wanting to be doctors, nurses, paramedics. But if they're unvaccinated, they've got very, very few options in health.
And John's got 6 beautiful children. 6 beautiful children. He's a family man with 6 kids. And he served his country.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
right.
the Bali bombings. I mean, just like I still remember that story you two told me a year ago about how John was the one that put the operation together, and Graham, you happened to be the pilot.
Well, I don't know whether I was the pilot of that operation, but I did operate a flight out of Bali with bomb victim survivors on board. Yeah, and it was the closest thing I ever came to an active service for my country, I thought at the time, until now. And we the other thing I did, which I'll never forget, was I had to pick up a load of East Timorese evacuees in Darwin in the middle of the night. And they came off an Air Force aircraft and came on board my 737. And while we were sitting there waiting to go, there was a Garuda Indonesian Airbus taxied in and parked alongside us. And when all the people, the Timorese, saw the Garuda aircraft there, they thought they were going to be taken off ours and put on Garuda and taken to Indonesia. And they started to panic. And I remember getting on the headset to the air traffic controller saying, "You got to get us out of here now." I demanded immediate pushback to get out of here because the people were really upset. And we got it, and we took off. And my daughter, who worked for the Australian Geographic when she was a kid, she got a box full of these little keyring torches that you press the button and there's a little LED light on them. And we had them on the flight and we gave them to all the kids. And at one stage, the cockpit door was open and I looked back at all these kids and I made an announcement and they all lit their little torches up in a dark cabin.
Yeah.
Now, I remember circling around Melbourne where we were taking them to refugee centres there. And Melbourne was freezing cold. It was a bleak day. It was windy. And we circled around the airport to come into land. And the flight attendant said they were looking through the window. You know, they've come from Timor to this massive, big, freezing city. And it was blowing a gale. And we taxied down in front of the jet base hangar. And it was so windy, the stairs nearly blew over. And I remember that they opened the doors and there was a massive hangar door open and all these people, officials were lined up, nurses and immigration officials and everything were all lined up to process these refugees. And they weren't getting off the airplane. And the cabin manager came up and she said they don't want to get off. And I didn't blame them. It was a horrible day. And we had shut down and I stood at the front at the cockpit door and looked down and I could see them all and they were really nervous. And there was an elderly gentleman there with a walking stick and he was obviously a village elder or an elder on the island, and he was terrified. And standing next to him was a 5-year-old boy, and I thought, I don't know what to do here. So I walked down the bottom of the stairs and I turned around and looked up the stairs at this little boy and I just smiled at him and I held my arms out like this, like, come down to me. And he looked at me and his face lit up and he slowly walked down the steps and he ran into my arms and I picked him up and I held him and the old man followed him down and all the others followed with him. And I took the boy into the hangar and I handed him over to an immigration official. And I will never forget that. I will, that's a story I haven't told very often, but I will never forget that. And what I think about when I think about the situation we're in is that how we as Australians get hung up on crap. We get hung up on absolute crap, Joel. And when you see people like that in the situation that they were in, they saw butchery at the hands of the militia. They saw people doused in petrol and burned to death. And we take them under our wing. And when everyday Australians have to face that kind of drama in their lives, that's when we might see some change in our spirit.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys are patriots. You guys are model citizens, and I think one day we might see a few statues of yourself up there, whether you like it or not. But
I tell you what, Hoodie, if I was at an airport and I was on a Qantas aeroplane and I was faced with the possibility of being transferred onto a Garuda one, I'd have been nervous too.
Ain't that the truth?
Oh,
Oh boy!
Well,
I'll
look,
tell you, flying an aeroplane with you is a real challenge as well. We went for a flying. John's got a very old training aircraft from the Air Force. It's a nice little thing. I think you bought it for less than the price of a second-hand four-wheel drive. He got a good deal on it. And he said, Hoodie, we're going to go flying when you come and visit me. So the two of us bulked out, jumped in the cockpit of this little CT4, and we went up. And things started to go a little bit haywire. In that the battery had failed and there was some electrical issues going on. And there we were going on a lovely joy flight. We ended up doing what amounted to almost a precautionary landing. Anyhow, it was good fun. Yeah, it was really, really good fun. Really good fun.
that's awesome. That's actually so good. I did want to say, I don't like how you guys have been treated the last, year or so since you both came out. And I don't think that's how we should be treating our patriots at all. And in fact, I haven't told you about this yet, John. I've told Graham. I want to gift you guys some honorary tickets to see Nigel Farage, the top tier, to have dinner with him and to meet him. It was really funny when I was talking, John, I don't know if you know who Nigel Farage is, but when I was telling Graham about him, he's like, who's that? I was like, this is Mr. Brexit. A lot of Aussies don't know about him. I don't blame him, but I've prepared this video for you guys so you can sort of get a bit of an idea of who he is. He's coming at the end of September, from the 25th to the 27th, I do believe. And we're showing 3 shows in Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne, all 15, So there's plenty of people that are going to be there. And enjoy the clip. This is a bit about Mr. Brexit.
You have the charisma of a damp rag and the appearance of a low-grade bank clerk. Virtually none of you have ever done a proper job in your lives. Just who the hell do you think you people are? Who are you? Who voted for you?
Big government. I can't stand it.
Aussie Nigel, we know you! You're a stinking racist too!
They came to bar me from actually physically entering this hotel. That's not very nice, but it's not going to stop me.
We don't know you. We don't want you. You have no legitimacy in this job at all.
This is the world's greatest leader!
All I need's the right beer named after me. That's all we need.
You know, when I came here 17 years ago and I said that I wanted to lead a campaign to get Britain to leave the European Union, you all laughed at me. You're not laughing now, are you?
Wow.
I can't wait to show you who this is. So he stood against the mandates. He stood against the lockdowns. He did get the jab initially, the first 2 jabs. He was conned into it. And then when they started pushing the booster, he was like, hell no, you can shove it where the sun don't shine. I'm not having it. And he ended up, standing against the European Union and the globalists. He always calls out George Soros and Klaus Schwab. And I love the guy. He's absolutely a legend, and he was the architect of Brexit. And he ended up inspiring the Trump win in 2016. I don't know. A lot of people don't know that.
And I recall listening to him, I think, on an interview with Alan Jones when he had his breakfast program. Yeah, he's really, really, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Look,
he's
are
amazing.
you going to go, John?
Oh, definitely.
Well,
We have to go to that.
You have
love
to.
go already.
You have to, guys. But you're our honorary guests. I can't wait to introduce you to some of the people that I've been working with behind the scenes, and they're very eager to meet you guys. They always describe you as true Aussie, true blue Aussie patriots, and it'd be very cool to even get some questions from you in the audience at the live show. But there's also a private dinner we want to have you guys at, because I think that's how we deserve to sort of treat you. You know, screw the government, screw the New South Wales government. They're not invited. All right, you know, we're only having.
I think we need to make him an honorary member of Club Grubbery, John.
Definitely.
Oh, not
And
not who's that?
Both of you.
I think it's going to be a really cool tour, and I'm very eager to learn from him because there's a lot of stuff he did with the messaging of Brexit and the messaging of the Trump campaign that I really want to learn and adopt for Australia, because he's a wealth of knowledge, and I've got an interview coming out with him every week until that event, 10-minute interview. So it's exciting times, and it'd be great to have you there.
mate, what a great coup getting that. That's a real feather in your cap. Fantastic.
You reckon we could get him to emigrate?
Look, it depends. It depends how the UK goes down the gurgler or not. He might like visiting Australia a bit more often. I mean, this is actually his third tour of Australia. You know, he's been here before. He loves the country. He loves the people. It's a slightly different culture, but yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, if we really make this a memorable tour, a truly memorable one for him, maybe he'll emigrate.
Have I got to buy a suit, Joel?
No, Graham, not at all. Not at all. You know, it'd be cool if you came. I have never seen you properly dressed in your pilot's uniform with the cap, except from that documentary. But no, look, come however you want. Just wear clothes.
Well, mate,
We've got our
and John, you can't dress up as what's his name, Brad Hazard. Okay.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
that'd be
They're-
amazing.
Yeah,
I've
sorry.
worn my Qantas uniform for the last time, Joel.
Okay. All right. I won't press it. I won't press it at all.
I haven't got the full uniform anyway. I've only got a little. Well, I'm not even meant to have any of it, but anyway.
Can you ask on service to return me hat?
There you go.
Oh, you guys are great. But hey, that's what this is about. It's about building culture and doing something other than protesting. I mean, we're going to be around like-minded people. It's the biggest freedom event that's ticketed. And I want people to come together and be like, yeah, you know what? This is really cool. And one of the things about the protests when they first started was, you know, conservatives, they don't really congregate. I mean, they used to in church services, but we all know how that's sort of gone. So I'm just trying to give us more opportunities to congregate and build culture, other than a protest where we all get angry, you know? So I thought this would be a really cool way to do it. And yeah, we've got other plans for Turning Point coming up. But no, you guys are creating culture of your own. You've got a regular show. People are tuning in. You know, the censorship's not biting you too bad, but you know, they're still annoying.
Yeah, well, we're cultured like bacteria, aren't we, John?
We are.
You guys are great.
And that's in Sydney, is it, Joel?
Look, yeah, that's you're welcome to go to the other cities and we'll sort you out. But yeah, look, Sydney is the one we were thinking of. That's on
Larter
the.
and I have got to be together. We've got to be together, so it'd be easier for him to get to Sydney.
I tend to agree. I think the 27th of September is the Sydney one. The details will be coming out closer to the time because they do tend to shut us down. They try to shut us down, and you know, we've always got to have backup plans and all that. But no, look, it's going to be a good night, and it's going to be an entertaining evening with Monsieur Farage. There's some great videos of him in the European Parliament, and all of these European sort of country leaders just speaking in their language, going Monsieur Farage, and it's like they're all attacking him, and you got the Belgian guy and the German guy, and he's just single-handedly taking these people on. It was very entertaining to watch. Like, I'm clearly a big fan of this guy, and I thoroughly enjoyed him beating the commies.
Great.
Anyway, gents, did you guys want to leave? I'm going to plug your social media, but did you guys want to leave the audience with anything specifically?
John?
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
Yeah, you couldn't. And for goodness sake, start loving each other and start looking for what's real in everything that you do. And just remember that it's not going to get much prettier as time goes on. And we've got to build community, and we've got to make them strong, and they've got to be built on a circle of love and trust. So it's time we all started doing that and stop pointing fingers at each other and just get on with being what real Aussies are, and that is great people who stand by each other in times of hardship.
Amen.
Stay out of the trees.
Amen to that. Ladies and gentlemen, there's Graham Hood's Facebook, just Graham Hood as it is, and John Larter's as well. You can find him on Facebook, Instagram as well with Graham. Be sure to share this out. We are all getting heavily censored. I have no doubt there will be thousands of people listening to this concurrently. Give this a share. It'll go gangbusters. And if you guys want to, book tickets for Nigel, if you want to see John and Graham there in the Sydney show, especially, click the link in the description. If you want to see that, that's just nigel.live.com.au. And if you want to support these legends, remember to give this video a share and get it out there. But gentlemen, it's been so good catching up. This originally started off with me just saying, I want to catch up on a private Zoom call, but it turned into an interview. So that's awesome.
Thanks, Joel. My Facebook page is Graham Hood Motivational Speaker.
Right. Graham Hood, motivational speaker. Just for everyone that's not sure, but this will be streamed to that as well. John,
beware all the fakes.
Watch out for the fakes. These guys, none of them do crypto advice. None of them do giveaways. That's not a thing. They don't do that. All of that's
and we
crap.
don't send friend requests.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm going to let you guys go because I know John's absolutely smashed. John, we're praying for you. God bless you. You're an absolute legend, and I can't wait to see you in person soon.
Good to catch up with you, mate. Take care. God bless.
Awesome. See you, Graham. Ciao.
Thanks, Jolie, and thanks for giving me COVID at the Sydney rally.
It's top secret. Ciao.
See you, mate.